Hey everyone, welcome to the 93rd episode of Dan and Ezra Discuss the Parsha.
Dan, we've only done like 12 of these videos.
Yeah, but nobody's counting.
Want to know what they are counting?
The 10 plagues. This week's Parsha, Vaera, has 7 of them.
It starts off with Hashem introducing his 4-letter name to Moshe. This is the name that represents Hashem's attribute of judgment. It is proof that Hashem is keeping his covenant with the forefathers and taking the Jews out of Egypt.
It also represents Hashem's exacting judgment on those who do bad. So after everyone gets psyched up for the plagues...
Well, I don't think the Egyptians were that psyched.
Hashem turns the river into blood. Then he sends out a massive number of frogs.
Ribbit.
Then lice. Then beasts.
Roar.
Then dead animals. Boils. And then the fire hailstorm. Each time, Perro begs for it to stop, but then he just turns around and keeps being mean.
We're going to talk about that last plague, the hailstorm. We're also going to talk about agriculture. Chapter 9 in the AP Human Geography textbook.
Before we get to that, take a look at this Passuk right before the hailstorm. Vaera et davar Hashem me'avdei Paro, henis et avadav et miknehu el habatim. Any of Paro's servants who feared the word of Hashem could bring his servants and livestock inside the house.
Hang on a minute. How come they get a second chance here? None of the other plagues give the Egyptians this option to believe in Hashem and become unaffected by the plagues. And there are 3 more plagues left to come, and none of them give this option either. What's going on here?
Now for our agriculture question.
What's the difference between shifting cultivation and pastoral nomadism?
That's not the question I wanted to ask.
Oh.
After Perro begs for the hail to stop, and Moshe promises to stop it, these strange verses show up. Vapishta v'hasora nukata, ki hasora avi vapishta givol, v'chita v'kusemet lo nuku ki afilot hena. The flax and the barley were smashed because the barley was ripening and the flax was in its stalk. But the wheat and the spelt were not smashed because they will ripen later.
Why is it so important to know about these plants and how this plague is affecting them? And it also seems to be brought up in a weird spot, because the effects of the hail were already talked about previously.
Well, we think that these psukim serve as a powerful message to the Egyptians and also to us reading it now. See, the ripe flax and the barley were stiff, like this stick. But the wheat and the spelt hadn't ripened yet, so they were loose and flexible like this.
These plants represent both Hashem and the people he's judging. See, Hashem has an attribute of mercy and an attribute of strict judgment. They seem contradictory, but in reality, they balance each other out. If he didn't have the attribute of mercy, then anyone who sinned would immediately die. And if he didn't have the attribute of strict judgment, then people wouldn't have the incentive to do good.
Humans aren't perfect.
Well, I am.
We all have the propensity to sin. So Hashem starts out flexible, like the unripened plant. And as long as we are flexible, doing teshuvah, repenting, and constantly striving to do better, Hashem will remain flexible in his judgment.
However, if we are stiff, like Perro, and stubborn in our sinning ways, Hashem's judgment will be strict and exacting, and we will be punished, like the stiff, ripened plants.
The reason why the verses come here is because it's part of Moshe's message to Perro in the previous Passuk. By allowing the Egyptians to save their animals and servants, he gave the Egyptians an opportunity to improve, to be flexible, to realize Hashem's power. But this was the last chance. In future plagues, those who haven't changed will not get that opportunity.
You can also look at these ripened plants as plants that have given up the will to change. The ripened plants are done. They are no longer able to grow. But the unripened plants have infinite potential. And so do all of us. We have to realize that potential and always keep growing.
Thanks for watching.
Shabbat Shalom. Hey, what's that?
Well, it appears to be a whiteboard with psukim from the Parsha that changed throughout the week.
That's cool.
I wonder who put it here. It's almost like ghosts are trying to teach us about the Parsha.